The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the most enduring and complex conflicts in the world. It is a territorial, political, and national conflict with a long and bloody history. This conflict is rooted in competing claims to the same land. Both Israelis and Palestinians believe they have a right to this land, leading to decades of violence and instability. The conflict is centered on the region known as Palestine, historically a region at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe. For Jews, it is their ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. For Palestinians, it is their homeland, where they have lived for generations. This conflict has had a devastating impact on both Israelis and Palestinians. It has resulted in countless deaths, injuries, and displacements. It has also fueled hatred and mistrust between the two peoples. Understanding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict requires delving into its historical roots. It necessitates exploring the perspectives of both sides and acknowledging the human cost of this enduring struggle. The land at the heart of the conflict holds profound religious significance for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. It is considered holy by all three faiths, adding a complex layer to the political and territorial disputes. For Jews, this land is their biblical homeland, the land promised to Abraham by God. It is here that King David established Jerusalem as the capital and King Solomon built the first temple. Jewish history is deeply intertwined with this land, making it central to their religious and national identity. Christians revere this land as the birthplace of Jesus Christ. Bethlehem, Nazareth, and Jerusalem are sites of major biblical events, attracting millions of pilgrims annually. The land holds immense spiritual value for Christians worldwide. Muslims also consider this land holy. Jerusalem is home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. It is believed to be the place where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. The city's religious significance makes it a focal point for Muslims around the world. The shared religious history of this land contributes to the complexity of the conflict. The convergence of these three major religions in a relatively small area creates a unique and challenging dynamic. For centuries, the region now known as Israel and the Palestinian territories was part of the Ottoman Empire. Under Ottoman rule, which began in the 16th century, Jews, Muslims, and Christians lived together, for the most part, in relative peace. While there were social and religious divisions, Ottoman rule provided a framework for coexistence. The empire's millet system allowed different religious communities to manage their own affairs. Non-Muslim communities had a degree of autonomy in matters of religion, education, and personal status. This period was not without its challenges, but it demonstrates a time when different religious and ethnic groups shared the land with a degree of tolerance. Life under Ottoman rule provides a historical context for understanding the complexities of the region. The decline of the Ottoman Empire in the late 19th and early 20th centuries had significant implications for the region. The rise of nationalism coupled with increasing European influence created new tensions that would ultimately lead to conflict. Following World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed and the land that encompassed Palestine came under British control. The British Mandate for Palestine, established in 1922, was a turning point in the region's history. It sowed the seeds for the conflict we see today by fueling tensions between the Jewish and Arab populations. During this period, the Zionist movement, which advocated for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, gained momentum. The Balfour Declaration of 1917, in which the British government expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, further encouraged Jewish immigration to the region. The influx of Jewish immigrants, however, heightened tensions with the Arab population, who were already residing in the land and viewed the newcomers as a threat to their own national aspirations. As Jewish immigration increased, so did Arab opposition, leading to outbreaks of violence. The British, caught between their commitments to both Jews and Arabs, struggled to maintain order. They implemented policies that often favored one group over the other, exacerbating tensions. By the end of World War II, the situation in Palestine had become increasingly volatile, setting the stage for the conflict's escalation. Section 5, the 1947 UN Partition Plan and its aftermath. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a plan to partition Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab, with Jerusalem as an international zone. The partition plan aimed to resolve the escalating conflict between the Jewish and Arab populations. The plan was accepted by Jewish leaders but rejected by Arab leaders, who saw it as a betrayal of their rights. The partition plan, while intended to bring peace, instead ignited further violence and ultimately failed to achieve its objective. The rejection of the partition plan led to a civil war between Arab and Jewish communities within Palestine. This conflict, marked by violence and displacement, created a climate of fear and mistrust. It also drew in neighboring Arab states, further complicating the situation. The UN partition plan, intended as a solution, became a catalyst for the 1948 war, which would have far-reaching consequences for the region and its people. Section 6, the 1948 War and the Palestinian Exodus. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which erupted following the British withdrawal from Palestine, marked a pivotal moment in the conflict's history. The war had a profound impact on the demographics of the region and created a legacy of displacement and resentment. Following the UN partition plan's failure, neighboring Arab states joined the conflict in support of the Palestinian Arabs. The war resulted in a decisive victory for the newly declared State of Israel, which expanded its territory beyond the borders outlined in the partition plan. The war also led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes, an event known as the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic. These refugees fled to neighboring countries, including Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria, where many continue to live in refugee camps to this day. The 1948 war had a profound and lasting impact on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It created a Palestinian refugee crisis that continues to fuel tensions. It also solidified Israel's control over a larger portion of the land, leaving the Palestinians without a state of their own. Section 7, the 1967 War and Territorial Changes. The Six-Day War, fought in June 1967, was another turning point in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, significantly altering the regional map and further entrenching the conflict. This war, sparked by escalating tensions and military maneuvers, resulted in a decisive Israeli victory and further territorial gains. In a matter of days, Israel captured the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, from Jordan, the Gaza Strip and Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, and the Golan Heights from Syria. These territorial gains, particularly the capture of East Jerusalem, which holds immense religious significance for both Jews and Muslims, have been a major point of contention ever since. The 1967 war led to the displacement of even more Palestinians and resulted in Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. It also led to the establishment of Israeli settlements in these territories, which are considered illegal under international law and remain a major obstacle to peace. The war had a profound impact on the demographics and political landscape of the region. It further complicated the conflict by adding the issue of settlements and the status of occupied territories to the already complex equation. Section 8, the Oslo Accords and the Search for Peace. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, represented a significant attempt to find a peaceful resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These agreements, brokered by international mediators, aimed to create a framework for a two-state solution. The accords led to the establishment of the Palestinian Authority, which was granted limited self-governance in parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. However, the Oslo Accords failed to address key issues such as the status of Jerusalem, the fate of Palestinian refugees, and the issue of Israeli settlements. The optimism generated by the Oslo Accords gradually faded as violence continued, and the two-state solution seemed increasingly distant. The Second Intifada, which erupted in 2000, further eroded trust between Israelis and Palestinians, leading to a renewed cycle of violence and retaliation. Despite the setbacks, the Oslo Accords remained a significant milestone in the peace process. They demonstrated that a negotiated settlement is possible, even if the path to achieving it remains long and arduous. Section 9, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Gaza Strip, home to over 2 million Palestinians, faces a dire humanitarian crisis exacerbated by the ongoing conflict and the Israeli blockade. The Strip suffers from chronic poverty, unemployment, and a shortage of essential goods and services. Years of conflict, coupled with the blockade, have crippled Gaza's economy and infrastructure. The population faces severe restrictions on movement, trade, and access to basic necessities like clean water, electricity, and healthcare. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is a major concern for the international community. Aid organizations struggle to provide assistance to the population, with the blockade hindering the delivery of essential goods and services. The ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza highlights the human cost of the conflict and underscores the urgent need for a political solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict. Section 10. The path to a lasting peace. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains one of the most intractable conflicts in the world. Achieving a lasting peace requires addressing the core issues at the heart of the conflict. These include borders, settlements, security, Jerusalem, and the right of return for Palestinian refugees. A two-state solution, based on the 1967 borders with mutually agreed land swaps, remains the most viable option for a just and lasting peace. This solution would involve the creation of an independent and viable Palestinian state alongside Israel, with East Jerusalem as its capital. However, achieving a two-state solution requires significant political will and compromise from both sides. It also necessitates the involvement of the international community in facilitating dialogue, providing economic assistance, and guaranteeing the security of both states. Ultimately, peace can only be achieved through dialogue, negotiation, and a genuine commitment to coexistence. Both sides must be willing to acknowledge the other's legitimate aspirations and work together to create a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can live in peace and security.